Majaz. It translates metaphor.
The term or the concept of majaz or metaphor have a great importance to me.
مجاز بالنسبة لي يعني كعنوان للمعرض صرف النظر عن واقع لواقع تاني بنفس المكونات ولكن بشحنة عاطفية أعلى ومكثفة وبمعالجة فنية ودرامية مختلفة.
And I'm the Associate Curator of Majaz Contemporary Art Qatar. Majaz Contemporary Art Qatar is a celebration of 5 years of the Artist in Residence program at the fire station. I serve as the exhibitions coordinator at the Doha fire station. The alumni artists involved in this exhibition are all based in Qatar. We really wanted to showcase the local grassroots art scene. The 36 artists that ended up in the exhibition, you can't say one is identical to another. The theme of this exhibition came about organically. What we noticed was a lot of the artists had some component of storytelling in their work. And there were 3 main components that we realized. The first one was character. Certain artists were focused on a character either heard of or knew personally, or a mythical character. The next grouping was spaces and places. A lot of the artists were inspired by their surroundings, either fictional, imaginative, or real. A lot of the artists looked at narratives. A key component of storytelling, it's in the word story, and a lot of them focused on the stories that were told to them, or they came up with, or they heard.
My name is Maryam Faraj AlSuwaidi. I'm a conceptual artist. I'm here to talk about my current collection, Tales, that is currently exhibited at Fire Station's latest exhibition, Majaz. My art piece consists of 3 pieces that reflects a singular chapter, which are the importance of the narrative for the viewer and how it's very important to form the concept of identity. My main inspiration in creating my art pieces are mostly related to social activities or social phenomena.
Maryam is really interested in the concept of storytelling itself. And so she was a perfect fit for the narrative theme. And what she looks at is the genesis of stories and how they are told and retold and how that eventually shapes our identity.
The way I approach my artwork, it might start with a personal question, but as soon as I touch the materials, I make sure that it becomes a universal language. I had to go through the experimentation phase in every single piece, from the papers where I had to find the right pigment in order to create the right effect. I had to create my own using natural materials such as henna and dead leaves, collecting them, smashing them, and try to use the right pigment to be added in order to create this mattifying, semi-transparent effect. None of these papers look the same. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, some of them have these small pieces, leftovers of these henna that I deliberately kept because it gives you this rustic, beautiful effect for each one of them. The resin was added in the end because not just I want them to be preserved or to be sustainable, it created this transparent feeling when it was added to the paper and the henna, and it was a happy accident, you can say. When I formed the art pieces, I deliberately chose toddlers and babies because when metaphorically expressed, babies and toddlers are mostly fragile. Giving them stories, giving them different tales, whether if it was real or not, in order to form these identities. The audio aspect in my art pieces created a further dimension for the whole experience. It created this form of cluster that actually reflected the idea of how different stories can create this sort of confusion, creating this realization that, okay, your identity is not the way that you want it to be. So in the experience, when people actually get exposed to this auditorial cluster, they will realize that by the end, that there is this certain voice that they follow. It's more about questioning the concept, questioning the ideology of the narrative aspect, about the way it was narrated from one person to another, which have a great influence on the identity.
My name is Sebastian Betancur-Montoya. I am an artist participating at the Majaz exhibition. There is two elements of my work being shown. One is, I'm calling that research, that series of the body of work, Fragilitas, and it's composed of a series of sketches, screenshots, drawings, study models. I'm terrified of blank paper, clean, pristine, like rods of metal.
We find different pieces of art, whether that's in public, whether that's in private, and we attach certain interpretations of that based on how we are conditioned to interpret things. If we see a monument outside in a public space, that automatically gives it significance. And what Sebastian was exploring was this idea of an anti-monument and how the anti-monument also has meaning.
A strong sense of authority in these pieces, in monumentality, and that was not in touch with the, I felt at least, with the times we were living, and that was actually a thing that was awakening all over the world. There were statues being toppled left and right, the Colson monument in London, the colonizers being toppled by indigenous movements back home in Colombia. One of those study models is the seat or the base of a larger piece that I'm showing outside the main building. It's a temporary public art piece, and it's called Vellum. The light element, which is a neon sign, it says furniture. And then I like playing with language, and I realized that by blacking out some letters, it could be read as future. The quality of neon light is very peculiar and it's very attractive. So I wanted to have this word future as in the piece is disintegrating, but it's not necessarily a negative way. It's just changing, it's a metamorphosis.
أنا حسان مناصرة، فنان تشكيلي من الأردن. شاركت بمعرض مجاز لخريجين مطافئ، وكانت مشاركتي عبارة عن مجموعة من اللوحات تحت عنوان حديقة للغائبين. عنوان العمل حديقة للغائبين، كنت بحاول إني ألمس فكرة أو مفارقة أو الجدلية تبعت الحضور والغياب. الشخص المعزول بغرفة وبنفس الوقت عنده قدرة إنه يطل على الكوكب الكامل من خلال شاشة موبايل فرضاً. أول خطوة بعملها إني لازم أبدأ بعيداً عن أي تحضيرات. البدء بحد ذاته هو أهم خطوة عشان تبدأ بعدين فكرة المعالجات البصرية يعني، ولكن كل هذا الإشي بيكون مغلف بهاجس يعني أو بفكرة. بعد ما ألاقي الأفكار المناسبة حاول أخذها على مجال أوسع شوي، وبعطيها أسلوب وبحولها لمعنى. الباليت اللي اخترته بإنجاز اللوحات ألوان بنيات، ألوان فيها حرارة وفيها دفء يعني فيها دفاءة، كانت لدعم إضفاء شحنة زيادة على العمل الفني، يعني شحنة عاطفية أعلى ويكون العمل فيه حميمية أعلى.
Hassan's paintings are special in the sense that they were inspired heavily by the COVID-19 pandemic. He observed people and how they interact with their surroundings during COVID-19, and what he realized was the certain characters that he studied, they became a lot more aware of their surroundings. So in his painting, we see so much detail, and that's particularly because he himself and the people around him began noticing things more. You began spending more time in a certain space.
هذاك الزمن اللي هي فكرة الشخص الغائب الحاضر، الشخص المعزول في منزله أو في غرفته أو في مرسمه، بنفس الوقت عنده قدرة هائلة على إنه يتابع كل مجريات اللي عم بتصير حواليه، يعني حتى بأدق التفاصيل. كان بالنسبة لي هاي حالة غريبة كان يجب وضعها في عمل فني.
So when the artists join at the beginning of every September, one thing I always encourage them to do is to experiment and to have fun. Because if you're not having fun and you're not experimenting, then you're not on a journey. Art's not static, and art's always changing, art's always evolving. And so when the alumni came back for the residency, a lot of them were further along in their disciplines.
In that first program, we were just trying to figure out what was an art residency here in Qatar, in this space. We were just a few people kind of doing isolated stuff. And when 5 years down the line, I was invited to join the program again. It was nice to occupy the space once again, and being part of this story was kind of being built at the far station.
When I signed up for the residency, it was my first chance to actually start my journey to explore the concept, and then from there my art career started to evolve. The alumni residency program to me was more or less an invitation to continue my journey in exploring the concept of identity.
تجربتي الأولى مع استوديوهات المطافي يعني بعتبرها تجربة مهمة، بالبداية قدمتني للمكان، يعني هي قدمت الفن اللي أنا بعمله، وقدمت الشخوص والأفكار اللي أنا يعني بتناولها بأعمالي، والحرية الكبيرة اللي بيقدموها للفنان لحتى إنه يجرب ويختبر الأدوات ويختبر أفكاره بكل حرية.